Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm here with McKeown, who is empowering women to step up, speak up, and show up personally and professionally. She's the author of Take Back Control of Your Life and co-author of Renewal. She runs programs called Reignite Your Spark, and she shares stories of turning toxic into triumphant. So I'm so glad you're here, Anne. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate the invite and this opportunity. And I know that we have very similar outlook in life and the people that we want to help. So it's great. I think these connections would make us all stronger.
Absolutely. So do you want to tell us a little bit about you and where you're at today and maybe a story of how you got here that will relate to the people listening and watching today?
Yeah, thanks. Well, you seemed quite surprised when we first started talking, but I'm in my late 50s and I didn't start my business until I was 50. And a bit like you, I had a corporate background. I worked for BP Oil in the UK. And then we moved to Australia. Obviously, I'm from Scotland. And because my husband's job was busy and he traveled a lot and the kids were young, I chose to just stay at home and buy the house, buy the dog, buy the trampoline, all the things you do, and help just volunteer and get to know people in the community and help the kids make friends and whatever. And I enjoyed doing that until I didn't.
Yeah. Actually, before we get back into how you didn't, that's as I've grown with my kids, and obviously I come from, a background of a crisis, an identity crisis, and trying to marry up that, how do you work, how do you do kids? That's really important, that part, isn't it? Introducing your kids and teaching them how to make friends and things like that.
Yeah, and especially like they came with like a funny accent, and the style of clothing was a bit different, and I don't know, the schooling was different, and so they felt odd. They used to say, "Mum, we feel a bit weird here," just because they felt a bit odd. And so it's just easing that. And I would say to them, "You don't have a funny accent. It's all the other people that have."
Yeah, we have a flat accent. Very good. And then, so obviously you wanted to create something for yourself. So how did you come to that decision?
Yeah, look, do you know what? I think it was the good old menopause. I just had a day where I just thought, I don't want to do this anymore. I used to think, I felt like Cinderella, like I just was doing the cooking and the cleaning and everyone was expecting me to smile and whistle and be happy all the time. And I just wasn't. And I just thought, I just don't want to do it anymore. And the kids were getting older and I thought they should be able to start helping. But I also felt that I hadn't quite achieved what I wanted to for myself. I was still searching for a bit of a purpose, and I had sort of gone from doing well in a corporation to being a stay-at-home mum, and
did that purpose kind of align with almost like leaving a legacy? Did that feel like part of it, part of your journey?
Yes, a bit, and also to be a good role model, because I also felt like we live in a beautiful part of Sydney and we've got this wonderful life, but I was a bit miserable and I was becoming a bit of a martyr. Oh, well, I'll just do it then, but not. And I thought, I'm actually role modeling to my girls that I don't have a choice, or that you can have all this and still not be happy. And so, I mean, I didn't like myself at that time, so I'm pretty sure nobody else really liked me. And I knew I had to do something to shift it. And really, as you know, everything that we decide to do, it starts with a decision. You have to say, this is what I'm going to do. The pain gets too great at some point.
So now you've developed, great communities, and obviously I feel that you would have insights to a lot of mindset and what's happening out there. And on that decision, what do you think prevents yourself and other women to making those decisions and going for it? What's stopping them? What, in your experience?
Well, I think part of it is our inner sort of feminine DNA, and a lot of the estrogen that we have, I think, makes us be carers and put others first. And I think, even if you think of at school, babies are, at first you're taught to talk and stand up and walk, and you're congratulated. Then you go to school and you're told to sit down and shut up. And if you're a quiet girl, then everybody thinks you're great. So we get praise for being quiet and studious and pretty. And so all those societal messages are one thing. I think the hormones are another. We become the carer. And I think if women start to push for things, we're seen as bossy rather than leaderships. And then we all want to be liked. So we maybe don't speak out as much as we ought to because that's seen as rude or.
Yeah. And do you think age has something to do with it? Like, I see a lot of women that do come out and are powerhouses, after 50. And is it more because they have more confidence, or they just don't give a shit anymore? It's like, oh well.
Yeah, and I think we get more testosterone as well. I think the estrogen dies off through menopause, and you become. We also don't have all the mood swings with your cycle, because that affects a lot of women in so many ways, whether it be pains, period pains, or whether it just be the emotional cycle where you just some days feel you're just crying and you've no idea why you're crying and you feel overwhelmed, and you really, once you're into your 50s or you're through the menopause, you don't get that, and you just feel more aligned with yourself. But definitely
empowered too, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and I think just that thing of getting back in tune with yourself. I think when we become mothers, we can lose ourselves a bit because we do have to put the family first, and we choose to do that. I mean, I chose to get married and have kids, and like a lot of the women, when they say to me, oh, I'm miserable about this, and I often say to them, well, would you rather go back 15 years and have none of what you've got now? And most of them will say, no, it's just that I lost myself along the way.
Yeah. And look, I think having kids is a special part of life. Obviously, it's a choice. Yes. But it is something that, from my perspective, I think you never regret once you do it.
No.
I think even if you love your life before kids, you still can love your life once you have kids.
Yeah. But the having it all thing, I think, has become a real pressure. And I think, I don't know who it was that said it, but it was that you can have it all, just not all at once.
True.
And I see that. See, my 20s were great fun, and you're building your career and you're a single woman. Then your 30s, you kind of get married and have babies. Your 40s are all about keeping that marriage together, paying the mortgage, paying the school fees, and
the midlife crisis.
Yeah, and then your 50s, and then I reckon your 60s are when you travel and you keep yourself healthy, and your 70s are when you're enjoying grandchildren. And I think if we can see life that we don't have to have it all every day.
Yeah, I remember I used to coach some startups, and they used to stress about, their kids and the house and their business. And I said, you can't have it all. You can't run a business full time, bring up your kids, and have a clean house. Like, get over it. One of them has
outsource.
Let's get someone else to clean the house.
Yes. So I think a big part of it's societal. I think some of it's hormonal, and I think some of it's just in our own heads, because we all know the story of, a guy applying for a job will say, well, I know 50% of that, I'll go for it and see how I get on. And a woman will say, I only know how to do 50% of those things. I won't put myself forward. I actually heard
I was reading an article, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was either, but I really loved, they said, why would you apply for a job that you can do? Apply for a job that you're going to learn something. I think that's how I've always kind of worked with what I'm studying. I'm not doing it because I want to show credentials of what I can do. I want to show credentials, or I want to grab something that I didn't know and learn from that.
Yes.
You don't want to do what you already know. How boring would that be?
That's true. Yeah. But it's the confidence piece, isn't it?
Yeah. So I guess it's a real mindset for women then, and the challenge that they have. So what are you seeing the mindset of women now? Because we are in a position where there is change, and we are expecting equal rights, and obviously there's a little bit further to go along those cards, and a lot of lessons to learn and things like that. But what do you think the mindset challenge is now for women?
Well, I mean, I've got two daughters in their 20s, and I see with them that they are more sort of outspoken, and they'll say what's on their mind in a way that maybe my generation would have shied away from a bit. But I also think a lot of the young men are accepting that women are equal, and sort of saying, okay, you went to university, we both got a great ATAR, we've both got professional jobs, we're both climbing the ladder, whatever. And so differentiation's
not there as it was in previous generations, I'm finding, with the younger generation, and the expectations of men don't even think about it. It's not an issue in some cases, I find.
Yes, yes. And I think the discussion is much more open. I mean, I hear my daughters talking with their male friends, and I mean, they'll have debates and things, but they're just much more open to even hearing it. They're less threatened, they're less I don't know, it just seems easier. And I think the old traditional role of the woman being the housewife is kind of, it's kind of died.
Well, I guess a lot of these young men coming through the corporates now and industries now is they didn't see their mum at home. There's probably very few. And in fact, I'll get some stats on that, but I'd love to know, what was the difference? My kids have grown up with them. Obviously, I've been home, so I've always worked from home since they were little. But, it was never that I was home to be there for them only.
No, that's right.
That's the separation. Right. Mummy's working now, and playtime's at lunchtime or after work.
Yeah. And see, my mum was a housewife, so that was my role modeling. And so, I mean, I remember when I first had my kids feeling really guilty that I still worked. And I think it's that. I think we carry a lot more. And I really think that women still do 90% of the housework and the cooking and the organizing because we're just wired to be able to.
Well, it's important to us, I think. I think, we feel that that's an obligation that we have to do. In saying that, though, I think my husband's pretty on the ball. I have taken, we've been together for 30 years.
Wow.
Training has probably got him.
Fantastic.
But, I'm sorry, 20 years, wishing my life away. I was just thinking how old he was and probably how long it's taken him to learn the skill.
Oh yes, I mean, same here.
Yeah. But then I guess we've had a part where our family was quite close, and my dad was role modeling, and my dad did a lot around the house. He didn't,
right.
necessarily clean the house, but he did most of everything else in the sense of and cooking and
yeah.
So I didn't clean the house either because that was my role model.
Yeah, so great. Yeah, I wish I'd lived in your house.
My husband despises.
Yeah. But
also
the other thing then is to say to women, outsource it. But then we also don't want to spend money on things. I see a lot of women, like if I coach mainly women, guys ask me all the time and they never once ask how much is it.
Yeah.
And women all say,
I think women don't like to spend money on themselves. They'll spend it on their children. Like if they knew that this coaching session was going to be valuable to their child, they would pay for it. But if they think this coaching session is just something that they're going to gain, then they feel a bit, I can't spend that money out of my family budget.
Am I being selfish or am I? And I say, no, it's self-interest. Because what happened with me was I was a misery guts. And when I started to do this business and love it and really find my identity again and know I had a purpose helping other women, then I became happier. Well, they all benefited because I was more fun to be around. Then I started earning decent money. So they all benefited from extra holidays and treats. And, so we actually, I'm a better mum, a better wife. And
I guess it almost goes back to those business basics. You can't grow a business or a family without investing into it. And whether that's money or time, you need to do those things to get the best out of what you're trying. If you're not investing time into your family, like great that you can spend time doing things around the house to make the house beautiful, but how's that investing time into your family? What is the cost of that? I think if you think about, what's the time value of what you put on your time?
Well, you're going to pay less to a cleaner than you're going to earn, aren't you? I mean, so that's the way I always looked at it. I said to my husband one day, I said, if you paid me for all the years I cleaned the house, I'd be really rich now. I should have kept a wee separate account and put the money in for the cleaning bill, because now we have cleaners and I'm like, my God, these girls make a fortune.
Oh yeah, it's clean's gone way up, and I think they recognise how important it is. You've gone from $25 an hour to I think $60+ an hour now.
And the other thing I would say, you mentioned there about your business growing and having to invest in it. I found that my business grew as I grew. So as my personal development journey and overcoming my own fears and doubts, and especially going from being a housewife, I was like, oh, who's going to listen to me? Even though I knew I had lots of experience and wisdom and lived experiences and stuff. But that's huge for us as well.
Absolutely. I agree. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. I think we've had an awesome chat. I have no idea how long we've done it for now. But yeah, thank you for joining us, Anne McKeown. How can we get in contact with you if anyone wants to hear or read one of your books?
Look, probably my website's the best place. It's just annemckeown.com. So it's ANNEMCKEOWN. And actually, you can download a free copy of my Take Back Control of Your Life book. If you want to go on there, there's a PDF copy that people can download, and there's exercises in it to do if somebody's listening to this and thinking, oh, I'm going through a bit of an identity crisis at the moment and or struggling with menopause or something, and could do with some reflective thinking, then there's some exercises in that to help them.
Great. What do you say about those exercises? Because I think that's one of the other challenges is when people are trying to self-develop themselves, is they don't want to put, or they don't feel they don't put time aside to do that.
Yeah, look, I think when you start reading the book, you'll feel inspired to reflect. I think someone that wants that book will know that they're at the stage for change, and that decision to even open the book is the first step.
Sure.
What I do think is when you start answering the questions, unless you're able to get feedback, you stay stuck, because we all have our own blind spots. And you and I know this as coaches, that you need a coach. We can see other people's blind spots in a very kind and sometimes very challenging but caring way, highlight those blind spots and help them shift them or work around them. I mean, I've had coaches, I'm sure you've had coaches. We can't do it on our own. We need someone else to say to us, right? So the way that I work is that when people do fill in questionnaires or go through my program, and then they come on and I'll say, well, why did you write that? And sometimes I'll say, I don't know. And then we can dig deeper and work around, why is that a block and preventing you? And so I think you do need the...
and I guess my advice around that is if it feels uncomfortable, then it is probably something that you're needing to do to grow.
Yes. And a big thing for women, a lot of the women I speak to, they'll just say they don't feel they've got anyone in their corner. They've got no support. They've got no, nobody that kind of gets them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most valuable part of coaching, because anytime I've been coached and I think, oh my God, this person actually believes in what it is I want to do and they're there to support me and help me do it, it really boosts your own confidence.
True. You just need someone back you, and then
and then you get relationships like this, where as two business owners, we're there for each other and collaborate with each other and coming up with ideas, and then you grow a community, and then everybody rises together, which for me is the goal of all goals, really.
Well, a principle for influential leaders is leaders grow leaders. It's perpetual. So you can become a leader because you know how all the steps and the foundations that are needed for that. You will grow leaders, and then they will grow leaders, and then all the issues that we have won't be there because everybody's emotionally intelligent and carrying on.
That's right. Yes, and looking after themselves. Yeah.
It's been such a great time to have a chat with you. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure there's more on the cards, so we'll stay tuned and look out for that, because we'll have definitely some other work coming out. So
great. I'd love to keep in touch. Yeah, thank you, and congratulations to you. I love the work that you're doing as well. It's really important, and you've got fantastic energy and ideas, and so well done.
Thank you, Anne. Have a great day.
You too. See ya.